And do we have Wiener somewhere? I'll speak before. Did we get anyone in? Please come in, please come in. We're gonna get started soon. Please come in. Everybody in? Is everybody in? So fill out the lines, so still some space in front. Very well, so we have the last two coming in. And three, I see three. My colleague in the back as well. The red one's also coming in, please. Alright. So Simon, you're the final, okay? Great. So Maria, our partner is from GTEC. GTEC, you want to say something for the welcome friend? I think you have to welcome the crowd in your new space, so we want to thank very much GTEC to be here today. You want to come up and introduce GTEC?
Hello everybody, welcome to the German Tech Entrepreneurship Center. My name is Maria, I'm the Managing Director. And yeah, as Tanya just said, this is our new space. We just moved in on Monday, so this is like really new. But we're super happy that you all found a way and made it here. For those of you who don't know what GTEC is doing, we're working to unlock the potential of technology and entrepreneurship. So we work with corporates, startups, and universities to teach entrepreneurship, to spread the knowledge about technology, and to connect startups and corporates to learn from each other, because we think that there's a lot of potential and that are, that are there to be found, and we try to do that. That's in a nutshell GTEC, and we're very happy to welcome the HTGF here today and wish you a very nice evening.
Thank you so much, and they made it really fast. They told me 2 days before we are moving. I thought, oh no, how are we going to make it with the event? So they did a wonderful job to move that quickly. So before we get started talking with each other, so I would like to talk with you, Beth. So who was on Monday in Berlin and was hit by the strike? Quite some few, me too. I was walking 1.5 hours to work and then back home. And that was the time I was thinking about the event and thinking how wonderful it would be just to have autonomous driving. This wouldn't happen, no traffic jam. You could have robotic cars, maybe drop you at the airport, pick up the kids. So what a wonderful life. And I thought like, no, but the weekend, so driving can also be fun, you know. Who of you owns a car? Oh, quite some. And who's just a car user? So that I thought that would be the Berlin thing. Yeah, you. So before we start talking, maybe turn to your neighbor and I give you 15 seconds to tell how the perfect car looks like for you. 15 seconds to your neighbor. car you're thinking of right now. But first we want to talk about the innovations we have in the market, and that will be probably autonomous driving, connectivity, shared keywords like safety, seamless driving, so much more in it. And we have the experts here on the panel, and I'm very happy that they are with us today. So please give a big applause for the panel to be here. So I'd like you to have a quick introduction to tell us what you do, a bit about your background, because you're all coming from OEM and automotive, so that's very interesting to know. And maybe your keyword for the future of mobility. Mine is seamlessly driving, and I would start with the lady, of course.
Hi, my name is Lina Gisi. I'm originally from Munich, just moved to Berlin. No, just kidding. And I was working for 6 years long in the automotive industry, started in a mid-sized company doing software strategy, actually only for software, not really software development. And then I went to Continental, being the head of incubation, and now I'm actually in a startup. It's about data-driven business models. This would be my keyword, I believe. All right.
Yeah, I'm Christian. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Chargery. We are kind of a full-service provider for shared electric fleets in urban areas. And my background is I've been working before more than 4 years in the automotive industry with Audi. Most of the time in the strategy department. And before that, I was studying business administration. The funny thing about that, actually, I was studying together with Lina. So, yeah.
Hi everyone, I'm Mehmet, and I think the most important thing about me is I hate speaking in front of audiences. It's just the worst nightmare to me, and this makes me so nervous, so here I am. I work for Deutsche Bahn Digital Ventures, which is the corporate VC of Deutsche Bahn, and we invest in mobility-related stuff, but not really related to trains. And my future for mobility would be public transport.
Yeah, hi, my name is Arvid. I'm a principal with Hasselblatt Ventures, and I worked before 8 years in automotive. So the last position was at the digital lab of Volkswagen in Berlin, and there I actually coded the connectivity framework, or part of the connectivity framework, especially the translation of those car values. Before that, I worked for a competitor from Stuttgart with a star on the hood, and those guys are, the Bergkönig is from that department we work for, and before that, classical industrial engineering and production, both in Germany and China.
Hello, my name is Moritz. I'm founder and CEO of Automotive, a company which is already like 10 years old, but also studied business administration here in Berlin, and then started Automotive directly after my studies. Started off with vehicle diagnostics, deep diagnostics, so we have a lot of data about the inside of the car, and transferred this now to a new dongle. So my keyword for today would be connectivity. That's what I believe I have the most insights through all these topics that put a lot of impact in the industry today. So no real automotive background, I made it myself, but I'm a car enthusiast like ever since. So I was dreaming of driving a car since I'm 3, so it was always like a pain to me when I read in books back then, in 1987 or something when I started reading, that in 2000 there will be all cars will be driving autonomous. So this was.
Oh, that's very close. That's very close. So that really leads me to the next topic. Why is the hype right now so big? So I mean, I know we had big transactions. Auto One, 1.8 billion got into Berlin. I thought only that. E-scooters are allowed now. So we have the topics of density in cities, emission. Why do you think it is getting such a hot topic right now? What's the shift? So Moritz, you have been for a long time in the industry. Maybe in past years you've seen how did that move?
Yeah. Just before recently I saw a lot of pressure is coming from, of course, the enormous money that went into startups like, or it's not anymore startup like Tesla, that put a lot of pressure onto the German automotive industry. But of course the drivers are much more important, like we signed this agreement in Paris in 2015, so politics plays now the major role that we have to, not only because of politics, reduce emissions dramatically to reach these goals that are out there. So these are the main reasons, and people, I think, of course, also culture changes a lot. People live in cities, so they don't have this binding anymore to cars, driving cars. Like it was, even for me, it's not like that hard anymore to think about the future. So we were discussing actually that. So he said he really is not unhappy about not driving on his own anymore. So I'm still keen on driving my car on my own, but not always. So I think emissions is the most important driver. So pollution, air pollution, and of course climate change. And there is no choice. We have to change a lot of things.
For instance, Christian, you come from Audi and now shifting to startup. So why do you think like the shift went? Why doesn't the corporate do it? So why do you have to go out on the street all alone with charger?
Yeah, actually, it's always about speed. So corporates are most of the time they are quite slow, and they need some more time to adopt to new things. And actually, I think they need the help from startups that they can, I don't know, adapt to new needs and mobility. And yeah, that's actually the reason why there are a lot of startups coming into the mobility sector right now.
Would you say the same, Mehmet? So, like, you see the corporate from the public traffic side also, and the investment also. Would you agree in that? Is that the same for you?
Yes, corporates are very slow.
How do you work against it from the investment side in that space?
Well, our team is two split. We have the investment team and we have the venture development team. Sarah is here. And what they do is they're the quality gate between the corporate and the startup to basically make them work together in the best way for both sides. Because if a corporate like Deutsche Bahn wants something and they just send a task to a startup and the startup has 5 employees, one of them will work on it for 3 months and it's just not beneficial for anyone.
Alright, so Lena, you have also both experience, worked for Continental for quite a while, and now you're in the startup. So how did you see like the movement in the corporate? So when they got involved with all these topics and mobility, they had the mindset that we need to change something, get something new, and now they're working on the other side.
I think it's super important to be also proud to be a corporate. Not always, saying, oh my gosh, we're too slow and we have so many hierarchy, blah, blah, blah. I think it's also important to be proud to be a corporate and to have a tradition and to have a certain culture. But as Moritz already said, there is a lot of pressure from outside, from Tesla, from other tech giants in the US and in China. So sometimes when, pressure comes from outside, people start to say, well, now we really need to change. It's not, it would be nice to, but we have to. And with Continental, for example, there was like this idea of having a startup organization to have this central contact for the external startups, and not just, having 250,000 people where startups could go to, but like one person who's distributing. So that was the one part, and then the second part was changing the culture from within, not just to be able to develop in an agile way, but also to attract new talents.
All right, and Albert, what do you see? You've seen the OEM side and the investment side. Do you see a shift on both sides?
Yeah, so I think the main driver or the main problem why corporates have a problem is first of all, they have a lot of stakes in play. So if you take Volkswagen, there are 600,000 employees worldwide, and you cannot just, if there's a trend, like shift all those 600,000 plus a huge bunch of assets in a certain direction without knowing whether the market goes there or not. So they're, I think, very good. Some of them are very good in fast followers or second movers, because once they turn in that direction, that's where we very, very powerful, or can be very powerful. And another thing, what usually is or often is a problem with this entire innovation scene in corporate is that you have a dedicated little space, which calls innovation hub or innovation something, innovation X or whatever, and those usually quite disconnect from the mothership. So they come up, start, okay, we're going to do some prototypes, everyone is happy, but then it doesn't really trickle down to the organization. And I think that's really the challenge. How do you get the mothership into that mindset? Usually it helps when you just work with them. That was I've experienced, that works very well. But still, I mean, if you want to change 600,000 people, you need a lot of innovation hubs to do that.
All right, so let's dig a bit deeper into the industry and look a bit more about the shift from hardware to something new. So there's still some car owners here, I know, and we're car as well. So we had some shift before. It was always the automotive industry that built a car and put a battery inside, and then we have Tesla coming up. Tesla said, we are the battery, and built a car around it. And now we have a totally different shift for business. Changes the industry dramatically, I would say. Do you still, first of all, see some potential in innovating hardware? So if you have, I don't know, weight, rich, whatever.
Yeah, so I do believe that the kind of automotive or mobility hardware movers of the future are not there. So I would personally say that Tesla is the newest old-fashioned automotive thing, or automotive company. What do I mean by that? So I believe that like companies like Continental, Bosch, or there's this one startup in America which just builds kind of like a driving chassis. So what you will get is you will get a chassis, you will get in the battery and the gear, which is not necessary in e-mobility, and then eventually later on you get some autonomous computer inside, and those modules, like you can just have a graphics and you just have those specific you need. I think where you already see that is usually in commercial spaces. So when you go to the truck industry, they already have it. So when you go to America, you want to just go there and buy an Actra from Daimler. What you'd rather do is, oh, I want a chassis from Freightliner, I want to have an engine from XYZ, and then there are companies building that all together. So I believe that there will be still a lot of potential in these areas of hardware innovation.
Christian, coming from Audi background, do you agree?
Yes. Yes, I think so. I think there always needs to be hardware because you cannot.
In the end, it's hardware driving in the car.
Yeah, and in the end, you need to come from A to B with hardware. You cannot come from A to B with only software. Of course, there always need to be like a really good brain inside the hardware because the software and all the AI and stuff like that gets more and more important and is kind of, I don't know, the game changer for hardware. But I see also a lot of place in like, I don't know, innovative hardware in the future.
How about Leonard? What's your objection?
You have to bundle. It's not just hardware, it's not just software, it's bundling. When you think of an autonomous driving car, it needs sensors to be able to be connected to the environment. So it's actually not black and white.
All right, and Mehmet, what do you think? Like, I thought now, like, there are a lot more car users in here because, of course, it's Berlin, it's a city, it's density. Would you also think that's typical just city, or would that also count for long distances, you know, if you have different kinds of traffic? Do you think there is more innovation in that, moving from hardware to more different models?
Well, we'll still need the hardware, yes. I think the long distance is easier as long as ways, and that will come much faster, so that the shift from the hardware as we have it today to something that will be autonomous will be much.
And how do you see that for, we have like the private use right now, but how would that be like logistics, truck transport? Do you see like a shift from ownership to something else?
Our does not own many trucks. I don't think they would own less in the future. I think it's already from a logistics standpoint, from ownership to just having other people own it and
So, Lena said it already, sensors are a very important part also if you're going into autonomous driving later on. So the new thing I think about the cars is the connectivity. So they have connections to the users, connections to the environment, and connections with each other. So these transform business models very, very much. Moritz, how much does your business model depend on being connected?
So we provide connectivity actually
Explain it.
to cars that are not yet connected. So then, yeah, well, that's what we do.
So you depend on the net, how well the internet works.
Actually,
so
our
let's get closer to the point where it's crucial, where these models have critical points.
So the market is not yet there where we're talking about. It will be a massive amount of data that will be transferred. So we need 5G. That's definitely a core for that. But to be very honest, we rely currently on 2G. So because it's enough, yeah. Our business model transfers just very small pieces of data which the market asks for, but of course in the future it's key that we have this connectivity.
So how do we get like those models to connect more seamlessly? So what has to be done, do you think, like from the public side, or what the companies have to provide? Where does the technology has to go to really reach that in a seamless way? So anybody? You can start here, Howard.
Alright. So yeah, I think first of all, so it needs to be there first of all. So there needs to be a lot of things, a lot of homework to do before you can just dream of fancy kind of data-driven models, data-driven application and services. So what I think is that you need to have some sort of semantic whatsoever model that is interchangeable. So you always need to have kind of like an industry standard, some industry protocol maybe, which allows you to transform or transport the data and interpret the data in the same way. So that's, it's an open standard, I don't know, something like HTGF or something, so that you know, I know the pressure, for instance, always in that same semantic value, which is, I don't know, Pascal, hectopascal or something like that. So I think this is the first thing that they need to kind of agree on this kind of thing. Will they do? I don't think so. So, question is, who comes into play? I mean, we were just talking about this Israeli setup, Automotive, who wants to be kind of like a marketplace for this kind of stuff. So maybe that's a possibility. Those startups like Automotive, they're going to each individual OEM API, connecting to them, and then abstract all the complexity for you. So that will be, and then it gets purchased, and then you can do the de facto standard. So that's one way, I think.
Okay. Anyone else?
So yeah, I think there are like 3 enablers in total, which is basically the technology in the car, like sensors. The second one is more the infrastructural technology, like HD maps, for example, and then, as Ari just said, some back-end processes like Automotive tries to do, or regulations and whatever. And I think what the mobility players need to better understand when it comes to data is how the customer feels about that. Because there is data which we as a driver like to share, or we don't care if we're sharing this. For example, if you're driving in your car and the car recognizes it's a lot of ice on the road, and it sends this information to the cloud and hence kind of distribute this to the auto fleets, we don't care, right? But like when all of a sudden personal data is collected and someone knows where I'm driving, how I drive, if I was kind of lazy and tired, how's my heart rate. This feels kind of private, true? That's like, nah, am I willing to share that? And also like willing to share when it comes to data-driven business models is not always willing to pay for it as a customer. And I think the mobility industry needs to understand this. Obviously they do. And also to understand better when does the customer really want to pay. And I think the customer is willing to share and pay when it's for them, right? If it helps me. If it harms me, I would not share.
The car will be the new mobile phone, because like all the data you have on your mobile phone, you have your life on your mobile phone, and in the future, the car will be the mobile phone. So you're sitting in your mobile phone. So I don't know. So for instance, Louis, would you share your mobile phone with someone else? You sharing it?
I thought about it. Maybe they're different user profiles so that no one can access my data. And of course I won't have a mobile phone while sharing it, which would be kind of a problem. But maybe.
So how would be a good business model, or what would be the regulation needed to say, like, I have all data in my car and use it like a real new, let's say, platform that is built around my life?
Actually, one thing which needs to be done or changed before getting to that is that I see Germany, for example, is like a third world country in offering like data or tons of data for a cheap price. So if you want to have like an IoT data tariff for all your IoT things, it's really hard to get like tons of data for cheap money. All over Europe, in other countries you can get that, but in Germany it's really hard. I think before speaking about models like this, that all the tons of data are in the car. For example, telecom, they have to change that they will get terabytes of data, kind of, I don't know, for free or for cents or a few euros.
You're dealing with data, so tell me the secret behind that, please.
The secret behind prices of mobile data. What needs to happen? Well, it's happening now. Yeah. So the licenses for 5G are now in auction. So again, what happened in the past, in 2000, the mobile sector invested billions of euros to get these licenses, and then needed to invest into infrastructure. And of course, then prices are comparably high, because a lot of money went to the government only for the licenses. It's happening again, and I don't know if most of the people know about the discussions between government and the mobile network operators, how much to invest now into the new infrastructure that is needed to realize these new business models that rely on massive data like autonomous driving and sensor-based vehicle-to-X communication and all these things. The key is cheap connectivity, yeah? But again, I believe the government makes a lot of mistakes right now and put a lot of, again, pressure on the mobile network operators that are in charge to deliver that. And they will say again, no, we need to take a lot of money from you to refinance our investment. But I believe now we are at a stage, if we don't invest, or the government doesn't invest into the infrastructure, we will see that again we are behind other countries in Europe, or even more comparably compared to China and the US. That's what will happen. Sure.
And one interesting aspect also for the regulation, and I think it's not solved yet, so at least for within 6 months, is that, so who owns the data? So let's assume you buy a car and there you drive around, you collect miles like kind of thing for your car, and everything gets collected, and then you share your car with someone else. And first of all, let's assume that car can detect who is the driver, so that's not the owner, but then who owns the data? Can the driver still use that data and gets those miles, so there's those kind of like miles and more? Or is it purely belonging to the driver who drives that, because there's sensitive data, as you said. So when you are at a delicate place or do some violations of rules or this kind of stuff. So for instance, in France, by law, you are then, if you know of that, you are by law forced to report to the police. That would be then the OEM, and all these kind of weird questions which come when you think about it, and they're not solved yet. And I think the Datenschutzbehörden in the different states, so for instance, Volkswagen, Niedersachsen or Saxony, they are in close collaboration with the OEMs, but it's not yet solved, I would say.
So is it more like who owns the sensor, who owns the interface, who owns the customer, so that would be the fight for it. Yeah.
Right, that's one thing. Who owns the data?
The data, so, but also the data and the connection, and I think that's very important if you want to come to the point to autonomous driving. So we have so many connections to make it happen. So if we haven't solved that, do we ever get there? So
I hope so, because I'm a super lazy driver. I don't know, like I'm totally with Arvid that from the technology perspective, we know already there are autonomous driving cars, but the city infrastructure needs to work. The city needs to have actually this innovation budget to change into a smart city, or at least a city which is able to handle autonomous driving cars. We need to have different insurances, different everything. So I think we will have those cars as soon as the cities are ready for that.
I think it's a development step by step. I think we will see the first autonomous driving cars as commercial vehicles on highways, because actually they are more or less today also already driving autonomously, because they're all driving, I don't know, a few meters behind. And that's the first thing which changes. Then they will go autonomously to one, I don't know, hub outside the city, and then there will be other transportation vehicles to go into the city. But as Lina said, in the city there will be, I think, a lot of time going in because it's a complex. There's such complex situations, even technology-wise, because like everybody knows, a city with pedestrians, with I don't know, a lot of other cars, bicycles, stuff like that. It's way more complicated than driving autonomously on a highway.
So I don't think we need a lot more improvement in the city, because those cars are being trained in cities right now. So you can improve the infrastructure and it will make the cars work smoother and it will decrease the fatalities, but in the end they are being trained on simulations run on cities today, so they will come.
Simon, would you sit in an autonomous driving car in the city right now? Are we there?
Right now it's a little bit difficult to say, but I think I would do it as soon as it is allowed in Germany, because you can make sure that it's safe.
And it's regulated so much that it's probably not driving anymore. So what would come out? What else would come with autonomous driving? So you have like a lot more cars on the street, a lot more traffic probably. So you have to make a lot more. Probably much more energy, for instance. So Christian, have you thought about it, how that would affect your model?
Yeah, sure, we have thought about that. Actually, of course, autonomous cars, they also have to be like serviced, and especially for autonomous cars, the time which, I don't know, the cars don't drive, it's even more, more important than with a non-autonomous driving cars. It's the same with planes. When they stand on the floor, it's loss of money, and therefore they need very efficient operations. And of course, it affects our business model, but there will be some other solutions. You need to get to the car whenever it stands and service the car. And you need to get there to force it to the same time as it stands there.
Or would it affect your business model if autonomous driving would be on the street in any way?
Yes, business model as it is today, of course, yeah. So it relies on retrofit systems, yeah, but of course we need to...
I prepared for that future. It's coming 2020, you said, so
it's 2000 already.
It's
2000, yeah.
It's over.
I read the book in 1987. Of course, it will affect our business model, but on the other hand, it's all these changes in the industry is the driver of our business today. So it gives us a lot of opportunities. Companies that didn't speak to us like 5 years ago are now showing up. Yeah, so of course they are under pressure. They take a look and becoming also customers. So good for us, and I think it will not come that fast. Yeah, so we won't see autonomous driving in cities first, only as people movers. Yeah, not in the classic way that your private and individual car will drive you from suburbs into the cities and back, and then to your next holiday destination. I don't think so. This will take the longest time, yeah, because there are many complex situations you need to handle. So, and this would mean that we still all own our own car. So, what is the great chance here is that more and more people, like we see today, are switching from their private car to people mover that drive autonomously and do ride sharing and pooling to reduce the cars in the city, which is the major problem, that there are too many cars already in the city, that even I am not keen anymore to sit in traffic jam all the day to go to my office. Yeah? So there is the big threat for the automotive industry that they cannot. We had the discussions about what will be a car brand in the future. Will it still be there? Because the people mover, I don't care if there's any design, because there is no design. It's like a box on wheels. Yeah? So at the end, what does it make me buy this car? Yeah? Another thing I wanted to also have everybody in mind, because it's when I'm in sales, everybody says, yeah, you can track my car, you can see where I am, because at the end, everybody is trackable through his iPhone and smartphone anyway by Google and Apple. So what's the difference? Nobody knows that SIM cards are in all BMWs since 2005, so they are also able to track you anyway for years. Yeah, so that people don't want to know about it. It becomes very obviously when we put a dongle into the car. Yeah? So, but yeah, anyway, trackable through your smartphone. You need to know that, but people don't want to.
Alright, so you know now, so stop the car if you don't like it. So if you're going into autonomous driving, and I think like Lena said something very important, what other people are willing to pay. So we're not owning the car, we're not buying the car anymore, costs are going down, we're sharing the cost per mile, so where are we going to earn money in this world?
I should not have grabbed this microphone. I think it's about how you basically get revenue out of data. That means basically selling the data. We do that today. We're selling data to our customer by providing him navigation. That's a simple one. Or you reduce costs through your data. For the customer, for example, if I'm willing to how I drive and so forth, then maybe the insurance can give me a better rate, as they can provide me usage-based insurance. Or also like increasing safety and security due to all the warnings which are now possible due to real data, real-time data. So this is maybe, hopefully, 3 ways of how you can monetize data, basically.
Do you see business models or up?
Yeah, there are multiple business models, and I think you subsummated them well. So what you always need to keep in mind is that just the raw data. So you don't want to get, I don't know, I pay you $100 and I get 10 kilos of data. It's not like this. It's a little bit more delicate. So what I think those players will win who are able to actually provide actual services to someone. Lina, you said that matters to people or to businesses, and what is that? For instance, so when you see all those radars which are built in the car, there are products like when you go through a city, so you have the athlete going through, you can scan your environment for free parking spaces. And those free parking spaces are then transmitted in real time to the OEM, and the OEM can then sell that data to third-party providers or start its own business based on that. Another thing is that you can scan the road and do a road check, like whether there are potholes or not, and can sell that to the municipality to say, okay, you need to send your maintenance troops there. Another one is you can, since they have all rain and light sensors in it, you can take this data and sell that data to weather forecast providers, this kind of stuff. And there are a bunch more, like real-time maps where you can say, oh, I now need to know what are the traffic signs. There is a construction site for just 2 days, or the limitations, so you have a camera, you can get that data. And that's all what they're right now building. So they're not the services, but the kind of like the raw data are there, and service providers are doing that, and I think this is almost endless. And then from the second, so what will others then do with those new services? Like you have an API for a traffic light, or who's that? So you can just kind of optimize routes, so Google can then start optimizing the route also on the frequency of the traffic lights and all this kind of stuff.
So do you think like the business in automotive is only a business for the new players? So you know, like the old OEMs, they were creating the car and then they built the upsell on it via insurances and finances, and now it's all the data game and the services that are built on that. So do you think like it's over for them and not their part of the game?
I think it's, oh, sorry.
Yeah, please go ahead.
So I think it's like so if they play it well, it's like an AWS game, so they're kind of like the infrastructure provider of mobility. So you have your fleet, your hardware fleet, you have some sort of APIs, your data APIs, and then you can have others building on top of that their applications, and then it's some kind of a mutual ecosystem where everyone profits.
Same.
So
I think I also want to talk about a very important side that's very important for Germany, so that's the supplier side. There's so many suppliers for the automotive industry, and for them as well, the world is changing. So starting from the dealers to the workshops, so there's so many things that have to get prepared. And I think they are not there yet where the automotive industry is already, sort of from the mindset, the change, how that will impact them. So what do you think, what's coming for in their world? So many words.
Yeah, for sure. So only by the electrifying all cars, so the parts that are in the car is reduced by almost 80%. So of course you don't need such good brakes anymore, because the engine does it on its own already. So when you take the foot from the pedal, the engine starts to brake on its own. Yeah. So the engine itself is like only having like a portion of the parts that a combustion engine has. So it will change dramatically, and we will see so many parts suppliers in the industry die because of that. When electrifying the complete fleet or the cars in the world completely. Yeah. So that is a big bet that's now on the market, which also is an extra discussion that we could have. Will all cars be electric in the future? So it could be, maybe not. We find better solutions maybe. But of course, it already actually started. These parts suppliers and automotive suppliers will consolidate. You can see that already. So it will happen.
Yeah, like coming from a supplier. I think they started to understand that it's not so much about the driving experience anymore, it's more about the in-vehicle experience. Just also, you know, believing in this autonomous driving car, people will have a lot of time in the car and they want to do stuff. So it's like the shift from the hardware to the software. And with that, there are coming a lot of new products, a lot of new business models, and I truly believe that suppliers also in Germany are knowing this. The only problem they have is building the expertise, actually. Like for Continental, it's like 250, I'm not working there anymore, so I can't do that. they are like 250,000 employees, and only 10,000 of them have software expertise. And it's super hard for them to get the talents. And we're talking all the time about technology and customers. We forget that people need to develop the software. And you know, if I would have like an information technology background, I would rather work for a cool startup or I don't know, Google, Apple, and not so much for Continental, right? So they need to change their culture. They need to develop more on an agile way and to attract those talents.
Are you in touch with supplier side on that? No, you're not. So do you see like the new professional in automotive will be like an OEM side? It would be some data scientist somewhere else. So is that new professional from automotive industry? They're nodding.
Yeah.
All right, they're nodding. They agree. So I would like to shift to the audience right now. So you have questions for the panel. So we will open it up right now. So
I'm Mark. I'm from Hamburg, which now starts an area for autonomous driving. So we'll see how that works. My question is, what do you think how our life will change with autonomous drivers? Will we all live in somewhere in the middle of nowhere and sleeping to work? What is your projection?
Yeah, so without having the pure answer to that, I believe that we won't have ownership will completely go away. I don't believe that. What I believe is that cities gets much more, so it's not like clear, this is suburbia, this is the city. I think as you said, it will just more gradually smooth out, since your car, if it's your car, technically becomes another part of your home, just a room, just a regular room with wheels. So I think it doesn't really have that hurdle that you sit down, have to concentrate on the street, cannot do anything besides that. I think it will become more like, as you said, you can sleep or you can do whatever you like. And you have a big entertainment or whatever. It's just like you're sitting on your couch, relaxing and this kind of stuff. So you're willed to take longer distances since it's much more comfortable for you. And I think this will dramatically change many things, like how our urban planning will be, what will be the real estate prices, since the pressure goes a little bit off that. And I think it will major impact that. Yeah.
I think it's a bit like payment system. You know, like the best payment system is the one that you do not feel at all. I think the same is for commute and travel. So it won't be the issue. You're not traveling, you do something else, as you say. Anything you want to add?
So my assumption is that there will be less cars on the streets, and if we look into the city right now, it's basically any street is a black hole for any pedestrian. So if we have less cars, we have more space for us humans. And additionally, what I think is important, everyone drives around with 2 tons of commodities around them, just one person. And if we take care of our environment and need less metal and less steel, that would be nice as well.
More questions? Yeah.
Hi, my name is Julia. I have a question. Since we're a country that loves cars so much more than a lot of other countries, where do you see us in the development, like looking at countries like China or the US, for example? How far will we be behind? And also, do you have a time projection also for the development of the cities to that futuristic utopia, and also when we have autonomous cars like everyone?
I think looking at the development, I think looking to or at autonomous driving, we are ahead of China because especially German OEMs, they're working on this topic for years, and it's really German engineering, and they're really good in that. And for example, compared to Tesla, they are really good in marketing, but they are not that good in autonomous driving, as they say. And so, looking looking to this technology, I think we're pretty ahead of for example, Tesla in Germany. Looking into another technology, so for example, the electrification, it's not that hard technology-wise. So therefore, China is ahead from us because they just do it. They build electric cars. They build charging infrastructure big time, and that's something where Germany is. Yeah, we have lost any connection to China, I guess.
I like the Chinese thing is really like that. They just do it. They don't ask. They just do it, and that's why they will be actually way faster when it comes to city infrastructure. Like I just heard about this new lane which was built like this for electric vehicles. It was like someone decided to do that, and then they were there. And when it comes to the comparison of US and Germany, what I always see is the Americans, they have a totally different culture. Not just in their private life, but also in their business life. They just test stuff. And maybe it works, maybe it does not. So they, like Tesla, like Uber, I mean, we all know about this accident. They just test something, and when they fail, they learn about this. But they have this huge messaging problem to the population saying, damn it, it didn't work. So, do you trust us now? Like, would you like to sit in our Tesla next time? Or, and here Germany is way better because it's like made in Germany. It still says something, which is quality first.
I think that's totally true, and I would say the same. So China is ahead of us when it comes to electrifying vehicles and bring them to market. They have I don't know the English word, a huge Binnenmarkt, yeah. So compared to, we would always, as Germany, with our lovely car brands, depend on these countries to buy a lot of Mercedes, BMW. But the good thing is, I was just there in September last year. They just love these cars, yeah. So I was really amazed. This was my first time in China. Taxi, it was a Volkswagen. So if we could keep a little bit this, which will, I believe, never go away, that people love the Gucci handbag, yeah, or women mostly, or Louis Vuitton, that others love these great brands that the German car industries, and also of course other French and whatever, but these are the luxury cars, that there will always be people who would like to sit in something like that. So it will still be there, and as you said, I think we can catch up. And when it comes to electrifying vehicles and autonomous driving, I also don't think that Tesla, and you can see in tests and what happened, the crashes and accidents in the past, that they are not that far or much better. We are much more in Germany and Europe. Yeah, I say, you already said that we wouldn't bring an unmatured product to the market because it would be a threat to the customers. Yeah? So I believe this race isn't won yet, by the Chinese and not by the Americans, not at all.
I would like to add a technical aspect to it. So we were talking to some of those Wemos of this world, and what they said that European cities in general, they have an intrinsic complexity, which our streets or cities in America especially, in China don't have, which means we're kind of like have all these old medieval-like cities with these very narrow roads and everything goes into wine and this kind of stuff. So that's much harder for an algorithm to work. That's what they told us, and I believe that. It's kind of obvious. However, if you are able to master this part, it's always easier going from the more difficult part to the easier part than the other way around. So even though I'm not sure who's now the first or the best, and I mean, who knows that, but I think we in Europe here, we have really the advantage of having the highest complexity in the problem to tackle. So we're able to do that. We can do everything else. If you've seen companies from China or from the US, where you just all that straight lines, I guess it's much harder for them until they release their service in Europe. So we're kind of protected by our medieval cities.
But when it comes to time, like, can you make a projection? How long? I mean, I know it's very difficult, but.
Yeah, so I think, yeah, level 4, maybe 5 years, I don't know, 5 years from now, I don't know. Something like that.
All right, more questions? We have one, and especially on notes.
Hello, I'm Zoltan, and we are in the topic safety first. And for this, we have to, or startups have to make 100,000 hours testing. And my question is, right now, what are the opportunities for this testing for the startups in the highway, in the cities, or any test track is available?
So I think it's interesting. So what I've learned from talking to these companies, so it's usually an 80-20 kind of thing. So you need really 20% real testing. So what you need to set someone on the car, go around. You can do a lot with simulations. So there are countries all over the world where you have more CCTV. And based from that CCTV, you can derive actual kind of real world simulations, like a GTA kind of thing. So GTA is a computer game where you can drive through the whole world. And so I think that there's a lot of, kind of like for the tooling, there's a lot of opportunity for startups. Not just only the actual driving, but providing a tool set like those simulation engines where you say, okay, I want to now simulate an edge case where I'm in Hamburg, it's really bad weather, and then a woman who is slow with a dog and red light goes through the scene and talks to someone. Something like this.
I think what's missing is something like TÜV for autonomous vehicles. If you would have a simulation company that in the end tests these softwares on a bajillion miles driven in any specific city and then gives their sigil saying this is fine, that is a big case that's needed in my opinion.
So we take 2 more questions. Where were the hands? One from this side, and let's just the lady first.
So we talked a lot about smart cities, like within the cities, and also like the car that you own. But I'd be very interested in public transport. Like, how do you think in the future this is going to develop? Because in terms of like autonomous driving, sorry, like if we have like actually conductors that drive these trains, or how do you feel that public transport is actually developing in the future?
Yeah, I'll just go ahead. So the solution will not be just cars. So we will have to include public transport, because if someone wants to get to the inner city, in the end you'll still need roads to the inner city. The public transport, so a train driven autonomously is much easier than a car. And in my opinion, the more public transport, the better. In any way, doesn't matter in which.
Oh, sorry, you want to say, so first you first.
I think it all will be better connected in the future. It will even start, I think, this summer when all the e-scooters come to Germany or to Berlin. And I think then more and more people will even use public transport because they can do the last mile for some of the e-scooters. And actually, personally, even for me, I would go more for public transport if I can do the last 10 minutes with scooter. And I think the same will be with autonomous cars, because you can go there and then maybe sometimes it makes more sense to use the train or whatever. And yeah.
So questions back here?
Hi, my name is Keshav, and I work as a software developer at Hella. My question is, when it comes to autonomous driving, I mean, I think we all would agree upon that. But if we talk about now, I mean, these times, people are still conservative and they like to keep their own car. So how do you think this mindset will change in the future? Because if we need to use autonomous driving, then we have to be more into sharing.
As I said, I think it won't be like that everyone shares and you don't own it anymore. I think it will be, and depending on it will be more gradual. So if you really like to have your own space, you don't like to share, maybe you have an own bed inside, as you said, that you don't want to share, I guess you're right. I mean, of course you go to the hotel, but I guess you would not do it. let's
So
assume
that
for
could be
now.
nice.
Yeah, that could be nice. So I think there's those two different aspects. So you will have more like this taxi scheme, which will increase. So you have those kind of where you just order, it stands in front of it, like this Uber use case. But you will also still have that owning a car, especially for longer distances to your home.
So how do you think this mindset will change in future? How do you see it?
I mean,
won't or
I think it won't really. I mean, okay. So if I just concentrate on that group where I say they're those Uber kind of people, I think it's just convenience thing. So when you really live in a city and you drive there, so especially when you go to collect a car to go, the most part I hate about those kind of sharing services, finding a parking spot for the car, that really is not cool. And taxi is too expensive. So I think the convenience factor will eventually change that mindset, at least for those people who think like me.
Yeah. I agree, availability and pricing. So as long as the car is always available, you'll just use it.
So if you have more questions to the panel, so there will be drinks and some snacks outside, so you can talk one-on-one to the panelists. If you want to set up a mobility company, there are red people here, my 2 colleagues, and I to talk to us. And before that, we should give a very big applause to the panelists. Go have fun, there will be snacks and drinks outside, talk to each other, network, talk about your dream car. Thank you.